Hey, my name is Jabari, and this is 10 Minutes to $10,000, a series where we speak to finance and business content creators about how they saved slash invested their first $10,000. Today, we're going to be speaking to KelechI and his journey getting to his first $10,000. So, without further ado, let's get to it. So, what age did you save slash invest your first 10K?
I was, let's see, it was probably 2017. How old was I? I was around 20. I just graduated from college. I'm 27 now. That was what, 5 years ago? So I was 22.
Mhm.
I was 22 and I had just, I just graduated from college. I started working. And the only reason I even remembered this number was because I transferred about $10,000 from my work 401k when I was leaving the company to my Roth IRA when I left my old company to start with the company that I'm with now. So
All right,
that's
cool.
why I even remember that it was $10,000. And it was something where I like knew
Yeah.
that I was saving to $10,000. It was very much like I was just saving passively to my 401k at the time.
Mhm.
I didn't even think about it because it was something my pastor had told me. It was like, as you give, save. So, and it just was a passive thing I was doing in the background. I didn't even know I was doing it. I agreed to do it. And it was just like, oh yeah, I need to move this money over. And we're like, wow, I had $10,000 just sitting here. Like, how'd that happen? So
You're like, hit that five figures.
mhm.
Yeah. All right, cool. So what job did you have? Like, what were you doing that you got you to that point?
So I was an engineer. So I graduated. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree, and I
Mhm.
started working at a lumber mill well, I started out as an entry-level engineer, then I became a plant supervisor, and yeah, I did that for about a year and a half, and then I
Okay,
left.
cool. All right, cool. Did you face any like struggles getting there along the way? And if so, what were they?
So, I mean, I'll say even just starting out, the struggle of the job itself was pretty hard.
Mhm.
But even to get the job in the first place, I went for anybody who's an engineer. If you go to something, especially if you're like me, if you're Black, or if you're just a minority or anything like that, there's a convention called NSBE, which is the
All right.
National Society of Black Engineers. So that's like a great way for you to go ahead and meet companies to get like to just interact with a lot of different companies. That's how I ended up getting the first job that I got was
Yeah.
through NSBE. And even the second job that I got was technically through that because I got some connections through
Mhm.
those programs to get to where I was. So definitely that was the hardest thing was trying to get the job. And then from there was actually working the job when you work like 12, 14, 16-hour days and you're working both nights and days and it's just all over the place. And that job is very taxing on the body.
Mhm.
It's not exactly a sit at a desk type of job, but I learned a lot when I was in that job, just how to be professional and how to work hard.
Okay, cool. And so you said that you did that like pretty much passively. So how did you automate it? How did you like what made the process easier for you?
So yeah, so when you get started with any job, sometimes they give you a whole packet of like, here are your benefits, and
Mhm.
within those benefits, usually you might get like a 401k plan in that benefit. And
Yeah.
previously, I had a friend who was like really into all of this investment stuff before I ever got into it, and she used to talk about like Roth IRA and all this other stuff. And I just remembered what she said about Roth, and so when I started, there was an option of like, do you just want to do a regular traditional 401k or a Roth? And because of what she said, I was like, yeah, I'll just do a Roth. And basically, I just set it up with the company where like they were asking me all this stuff during my orientation period of like, fill this out, accept this, fill this out, accept that. And I
Mhm.
just said, yeah, I'm just going to tick this number up to 10% and I'm just going to leave it. And that's basically all I did was none of the money I never touched it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to think about it
Yeah.
because it was just happening in the background where my company was actively depositing that money on my behalf.
Got it. Okay, got it. So you did it basically by having a 10% like cushion set where you're like, all right, 10% just automatically goes every single month or every single pay period to this Roth 401k.
Yep, pretty much. I just automated it. At the time, I mean, to be honest, I was on a track to make a whole bunch of money in a very short period of
Yeah.
time. So living expenses, all that stuff, I basically was living on less than, which that was a whole other thing. I was basically living on less than one of my paychecks. And so I had a lot of extra income. Now I look back at it and I was like, dang, I should have been investing all that money and I'll be so much better off now. But the point is, like, at that point, I didn't have to worry about like, oh, am I going to be able to cover my bills or any stuff? It was just like I had made a budget based on the salary that they were going to give me. So even before I even started the job, when I got my offer and I knew like, okay, this is how much health benefits can approximately cost, this how much power bill, this how much all this stuff can maybe cost. After I did that, I was able to say, okay, I can do at least 10% and then have all this extra money. So going into it, and I'll advise anybody, whenever you get your offer letter, like at least start predicting how much money it's going to cost you for living wherever it is that you're living. Think about the rent, your power bill, water bill, all that stuff. Start thinking about that even before you accept the offer. Like start thinking about that, because I think one of the problems that we do sometimes is we just jump in. Like we see the offer letter and we're like, oh, that looks like a good amount of money, but we don't think about like, okay, where am I going to be living? How much does it cost to be living there? Like if somebody offered you, like if you're an engineer, somebody offered you like $70,000 to live in New York, I'm gonna be like, nah, because I know New York's cost of living is expensive. And as an engineer in New York, you should be making way more than that. So you got to also know what you're being offered as well. So just like you have to go into it with like a plan in place of like, this is what is good, this is what is not good.
Got it. Okay, cool. That's definitely good to hear. One of the things I like to ask, so when you got to that 10K point, did you ever lose any of the money? Did you ever pull out any of the money or like anything like that?
No, I mean, because it was invested in IRA and just because it was invested in my 401k, to me, once that happened, and because I knew about the penalties of taking money out of there, I was just like, I'm never touching this. And plus, another backstory is before I even started working full time, prior to that, I had worked as a co-op with another company. And I remember when I had a 401k with that company, but I didn't know all the other things of like, oh yeah, I can just transfer all this money into my personal Roth IRA. And one of the things I always regretted from that was like, there was a good amount of money that I had saved up. And then I just kind of squandered it all. I took it out. I got hit with a massive penalty. And, you know, I just like I lost a good amount of money from that. And so that like left a scar for me when I was transferring my money the second time around. And plus I was listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm definitely not touching this. I'm just going to let that thing roll on its own.
Yeah, I mean, the penalty is what? It's 10% plus the taxes on the growth, right? So like that's like, yeah.
Like it was like almost half just gone. And I was like, what? Like, how did this happen? But you know, you live and you learn, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, cool. So let me just make sure, we're good on time. So for the last basically 2 questions, now that we know your story, everything, if you were to think of anyone next that I should, speak to, have on the series, who do you think I should speak to?
There's a guy named Admani. Admani Explains.
Oh,
I
cool.
really enjoy his stuff, and I'm actually gonna interview him soon, hopefully on his just talking about this stuff more. Another person that I really like her content is Kyla Explains, or Kyla. Kyla has really, really good TikToks on microeconomics, and I would really actually like to hear how she got started, which I know some of her stories as well.
I think we talked about her before.
Yeah, she's really dope. There's another guy, his name is Tolu, and you can find him on Instagram or Twitter at Tolu's Note. He's really, I like his, he doesn't do videos or anything like that. He writes blogs, but his blogs are really, really good. But those are the ones off top that I can think of and say like, yeah, if you can reach out to those guys, they're really, really good.
Okay, cool. Got it.
Yeah.
Right. And lastly, so for you, is there anything you want to promote, like your podcast, like you were just talking about, or YouTube or anything?
Yeah. I mean, if you, this is going to be on TikTok, so check out the TikTok page. I post as often as I can. Sometimes videos are good, sometimes it's not so good. Let me know if you like them or not. And then in the bio of that, there's a bunch. You can find me on Instagram. You can find the podcast where it's a lot more long form content and where I talk about business news and personal finance and just talk about how we can basically improve ourselves in different ways. And then I write a newsletter as well. The podcast is called Rambling Mind, and the newsletter is called Rambling Mind as well. And Rambling Mind newsletter, I basically just break down the psychology of money a lot of the time, talking more about the psychological aspect that play into us making some of the decisions that we tend to make that we don't even realize that we're making. So you can go check that out. All of that is going to be linked in the bio of TikTok or if you go check me out on Instagram as well.
So that was a great interview. If you guys want to follow KelechI, as he said, you can check out his podcast, TikTok, or YouTube channel, and his newsletter. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, I'd really appreciate it if you followed or subscribed. And with that said, I hope to see you guys next time.